Hey everybody, welcome to the Hurdy-Burk Internet Broadcast Network, and tonight our special guest is David Lallier. So David is one of my clients, and I've been anxious to do a little podcast with him, which we're going to do tonight. But before we start talking to David, we have a brief message from our exclusive sponsor for 2017, Jerry's Garage. Thank you, Todd Frank, and we'll be right back.
Howdy, this is Todd Frank, owner of Jerry's Garage. We've been serving our customers since 1967. You know, vehicles have changed greatly over the years, but quality customer service and sound repairs have not. We've earned a great reputation with our clients. Check us out on Google and Yelp. So when you need repairs or maintenance on your gas or diesel vehicle, you'll call us. We work by appointment only and sometimes emergency. So our number is 512-255-7627. That number again, 512-255-7627. We look forward to earning your business at Jerry's Garage.
Okay, we're back. David, welcome to the show, man. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, so thanks for the invite, Hurdy. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. Well, we've been having some fun teaching you some social networking, and I know you're reinventing yourself and jumping back into something you did a lot of in your day, which was public speaking and training.
And what I figured out is how you market today is so different than how we marketed when I did it the first time.
Exactly right. You're getting what we call a headshot, quick introduction to a lot of things we've been going over to get you started. And I'm excited about the interview because I have heard David speak on a program he'll talk about tonight, and it was awesome. Actually, I got to record about 20-minute speaking he did to the Rotary Club down in downtown Austin. Anyhow, welcome to the show, but you sent me some questions we're going to ask you tonight, and I'm excited to hear the answers because, quite frankly, I don't know all the answers to these, David. So how did you get started speaking and training? Where did this all begin for you?
Well, I grew up in Houston, and this was probably at least 2 lifetimes ago. I was actually on the board of directors for a nonprofit in the Clear Lake area, which is NASA, called Partners in Space. And what they really did was try to get kids interested in the math and sciences, because back then kids were kind of drifting away from that. So I was on the board of directors, and the executive director came to me one day and knew that I'd put this memory workshop together. I called it the Don't Forget Memory Workshop. Didn't really know what I was going to do with it, didn't know how to market it, just kind of did it because I wanted to learn the techniques and the skills on how to remember information, remember names, and those kind of things. And she said, will you do a program for some of our donors as a fundraiser? And their donors were NASA and Rockwell and McDonnell Douglas and some of those big contractors. So I said, sure. So they had some HR directors come in from various companies, and we did a 3-hour program, and it went really well. I got great feedback. And so she said, well, can we do it again? I said, sure. So we brought another group in. And so we did it, and we got even a better reception. And then I thought afterwards, there may be something here. So it literally went from there and turned itself into an almost 16-year business. And it was not intended to be business. It was intended to be something I thought would be fun to do. I thought it was good information and people could get value from it. But I never envisioned it being much more than just, something you did. But it literally turned into a business, and I ran with it for a long, long time. It had a ball.
Yeah, and so at what point did you stop? But just that you I'm not going to use the word worn out because that's not the correct term. Did you just get to the point where you needed a break from it? Is that what happened?
Well, I started really kind of in the early 90s in Houston and did it for almost 16, 17 years. And then when we all remember 09 and 010 when they rolled around, it was pretty obvious that the wheels were coming off the economy. And at that point in time, I was doing training for Microsoft and the Disney Company and Meeting Planners International and credit union leagues, and literally was traveling all over the world doing training. And when that period hit us, I talked to Microsoft and I talked to Disney and some of those people, and the very first thing corporations and associations cut out when the economy gets tight and money gets tight is training. So it became kind of writing on the wall was well, I'm not sure how much legs this is going to have moving forward because
Right.
the economy is going to be so tough. So, and I was kind of ready for a break and to do something else. So I got into a couple of other adventures along the way. And then the interesting thing is back, I guess, July, August last year, I was having a conversation with a couple of friends of mine, and we just got to talking about business in general, and then training came up. And so I started talking about training and some of the things I'd done, and I could sense myself just lighting up. And a couple of comments I got from these two friends of mine said, you know, when you talk about other things you're doing, you're almost monotonish. And then when you start talking about training and speaking, you come alive. Yeah. And so there's something there. And so I thought about it for a little while. I said, you know, this is something I really probably need to dip my toe back into. So I started kind of putting the word out that I was, you know, doing presentations and speaking. And like you said earlier in the interview, the Rotary Club downtown brought me in, I guess, the end of November last year. And I did a program and just had an absolute ball, just had a ball. We had 100 and some odd people in the room. And I was on a high when we got done. And I thought, you know, I don't think this is something I just want to do. I think it's something I need to do. I think it's really part of my DNA. So that kind of recharged the batteries and kind of put me in the direction of getting back into the speaking and training business. So that was kind of the reintroduction, if you will.
And those two buddies, did they push you hard that drew you back into it? Did they?
You know, I don't. Yeah. No, not really. It was something that we had. I don't know. We sat there for 3 or 4 hours. We were at Whole Foods in the Gateway area and just sitting and talking and jabbing and whatever. And I think they could see my excitement. And when I left there, I thought about it all weekend and thought, you know, I just miss it more than I thought I missed it. I really thought I'd put it on the shelf and it was just going to be a past life and had a lot of fun with it and made some good money at it, but just wasn't anything I really wanted to do again. And I think after that conversation and then my thinking about it over the weekend said, this needs to be part of what I do.
Yeah. And so what I got to witness, because I got to shoot this on video, was basically how we met. I was invited, I was referred to you by one of my other clients, Artie, from Artex Funding, and I got to film you. And one of the key topics, and the one you talked about, a real short module at the Rotary Club, was unique and drives home a strong message, was you have this thing called the twist model. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. It's a lot of fun. One is proprietary. We developed it so nobody else does it. But the idea behind it is really simple. The model is really designed to get your mindset or your twist. And what twist stands for is the way I see things. And twist is really nothing more than your perception, your mindset, how you view the world. And the bottom line is everybody has a different twist. You have a twist, I have a twist, and they're not consistent. And they're not consistent because our twist is built from all of our backgrounds. Everything that's happened to us our whole lives is what builds our twist. So each one of us has a different way of looking at the world. And the idea behind it is if you are in a relationship, it could be a personal relationship, it could be a professional relationship, and you and this other party are disconnected. You're just not connecting and there's some problems and you're not getting the results that you want out of that relationship. Well, the first thing you have to recognize, as everybody would, is that I'm not going to change that other person. That's just out of the cards. Just give up and ghost. It's just not going to happen.
Bang your head against the wall, right? Try
exactly, yeah, because that's a losing battle from the word go. If you try to change somebody else, it's just not going to get you anywhere. And so what we concluded when we were kind of building this thing was that I could change my behavior, and if I change my behavior and the way I reacted to the other individual, the dynamics of the situation changed. Just it had to, because I changed. And so the whole twist model is really built into an idea of identifying the results that you want, identifying the behavior that I need to exhibit in order to help drive that result, and then your twist or your mindset manages that behavior. And an example that I typically give to kind of bring the point home so people have a real concept about what the twist model is if you worked for me, if I was your supervisor, could I, if I had that control over you or that supervision over you, could I change your behavior in the short run if I wanted you to behave differently than you were behaving in the workplace? And the answer is yes. If I put a consequence in front of you, you're going to change your behavior as long as that consequence is in place that you're not willing to pay. But the big question becomes, what happens when that consequence goes away?
Yeah.
Your behavior goes back where it was, right?
Goes back to ground zero.
Exactly. So the whole idea behind the twist model is I can't change your twist. I can't change your behavior, but what I can do through the mechanism that we built into the model is I can give you different ways of looking at it. So hopefully I can feed you enough information to where you change your own twist, which changes your behavior and ultimately gets the result. So it's not a manipulative tool. It almost sounds like it is. It's really a coaching tool. But the idea is that it really does help you identify the results you're looking for and then how to drive to that result.
And I will say that when I shot this and saw this for the first time myself, you had tremendous room participation by you actually had this large group asking you questions and putting you in scenarios, and it was kind of cool. So what I got from it was, and what you said was, hey, the twist is the way I see things, but the end result is we've got to change our own behavior, right, to get the results we want, not necessarily a control factor, which is really cool.
Exactly.
But my big deal was how involved that room was. They were all raising their hands, wanting to talk, which was really cool. So this is a great program.
To that point, I've been doing facilitation and speaking for, eons and eons and eons.
Right.
But one of the things I'm a firm believer that, one, people learn when they do. They don't learn when they listen. And two, they learn when they're having fun. So whenever I'm doing a program, whether it's a 30-minute presentation, an all-day workshop, we have fun, we laugh, we giggle, we interact. And so I think people leave with that real sense of learning and taking real takeaways because, one, they've been very involved in the program. It's not a lecture program. And they've had fun along the way. And I really think that's where the learning happens.
I do too. And, one of the things you mentioned at the top of the show was that you have a program for remembering information, especially names, right? And I understand that you do a memory program. So let me throw a fun pun at you. Can you remember anything about that program and tell us a little bit about it?
I wish I could, because this would probably be a better interview if I could actually talk and tell Silly about it, but that's probably not. No, it really is funny, and the story I told at the top of the show is exactly true. It literally started, I taught me these techniques because I just knew that I needed to be able to particularly remember names and faces, because I don't think there's a better compliment you can pay somebody that you meet one time and then you meet them 2 weeks later and you say, well, Herdy, how are you? That blows people away when you call them by name. I've always said that it's the number one word in the English language that we want to hear is our own name. And so the idea behind it is, and the funny part about it is the history of what we teach in the memory workshop goes back to Aristotle. So this stuff is 2,000 years old. It's nothing new in the world. It's all based on getting mental pictures and doing associations. But the secret behind it is, even though, I was kind of thinking about this earlier, knowing that we're going to talk tonight, that, all the technology in the world is out there and the world is moving at rapid speed, but we have more and more information we have to process, more and more information we have to hang on to. So having skills on how to do that, I think is probably more of an asset today than it was 15 years ago when I was doing the program on a full-time basis.
I was introduced to you, David, and you know what my association was? Remember your name?
Tell me.
You were running through the field with a slingshot trying to hit Goliath.
And that's exactly the way the process works, and it is extremely simple to understand. It takes practice to get good at it, but it's really simple. Well, all right, I'll turn it back on you. What's the first thing you think of when you think of Herdy?
The hurdy-gurdy man, when Donovan did his song in 1963.
Oh, that's funny, because that's not where I went. Where I went was I saw you jumping a hurdle.
Ah, good. Okay, you got the first part right.
So the key behind all that is, if I get a mental picture, and I'm giving away all my trade secrets here, but if I get a mental picture of your face, because I'm obviously interacting with you when I meet you, and then I see you jumping a hurdle, the next time that I see you, that picture pops back in my head,
Right.
and that association pops in my head, and that way I can get from the picture back to your name. And that's really the secret. And like I said, understanding it and practicing it is really simple. It does take a tremendous amount of practice to get proficient where you can make those connections, in a heartbeat.
And the funny thing about that association, David, is every time I see you running through a field with a slingshot.
Exactly. And you should. That's the whole key. That's exactly. And you should have a consistent picture. Every time you see me, that should be the image that pops in your head. You're exactly right.
Well, good. So that memory thing is another thing you can work with groups or organizations, associations, corporations, right? You have a full program for that you can do.
Yeah, and one thing I will mention to you that I think is just a great antidote to add to this piece of the conversation is that program, and I call it the Don't Forget Memory Workshop. And that was what most associations that would hire me did. I did a lot of work with credit union leagues and with American Institute of Banking and doctors associations. And so I would be invited to go speak at conferences, and I was typically a breakout session. So I would have like an hour, 15-minute program, and it was up against 6 or 7 other programs that were generally core programs for that particular industry, banking industry, credit union, whatever it might be. Right. And I remember looking back some reference letters that I was putting together, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and I ran across one from the New Mexico Credit Union League, and it has a couple of paragraphs that people really enjoyed it, And the last sentence of this particular reference letter said, there was only one problem with your program. And I thought, well, this is going to be interesting. So what's the next line, right? And the next line was, the only problem with your program was your room was packed and nobody else had anybody in their rooms. And it wasn't me. It was strictly the topic. And so what associations really like to do is they offer core programs for people to really learn things they need to learn about their industry. But they always like to scatter them with programs that are not core, but that people can learn something from and have fun with. And that's why this topic is ideal for those kind of settings.
Tell us a little bit about some of the clients you work with. People probably like to know that.
Well, I've had a real fortunate run. Microsoft was a major client. I worked for them for, 7 or 8 years, I guess. And I started off doing some programs for them that I had created. And in fact, they called me one day and they said, we want to do a program on strategic thinking. And I go, okay, cool. What does it look like? They say, we don't have a clue. Okay. So I did some research and I flew to Seattle. We baited it and it went really well. And so I literally almost trained probably a quarter of all the people in Seattle. And I've been literally all over the world with Microsoft with that program. But it really discusses the 16 habits of strategic thinking. We tend to get into real ruts about how we think, and we think tomorrow the way we thought yesterday. And this program really alters some of that so that people not only think outside the box, sometimes they just don't get the box to exist. And once I built it for Microsoft, then I sold it to Disney. I sold it to Meeting Planners International. So that was a really hot topic for a while. And the nice thing about that one, it could be an hour program or it could be an all-day thing. So those are really the 3 key programs that I do. The twist model we talked about, the Don't Forget Memory Workshop, and the one that really fits into the corporate environment really, really well is that 16 Habits of Strategic Thinking.
And I think that's super important today. I don't know about you, but I think people are kind of confused how to put that in action myself. We're getting pulled in so many different directions. That'd be awesome to sit through myself.
Yeah, I think the world is moving at such a pace, like we were talking about earlier, that you really do have to kind of restructure the way that you, view the world through a twist model and then react to the world through the 16 habits.
All right, everybody. So we're talking to David with Rapid Learning Programs, and we have an exclusive sponsor of 2017, Jerry's Garage. Todd Frank, thank you for sponsoring our show. We're going to hear a brief 30-second little, what I call an infomercial through the podcast, and then we'll be right back with David.
Howdy, this is Todd Frank, owner of Jerry's Garage. We've been serving our customers since 1967. Vehicles have changed greatly over the years, but quality customer service and sound repairs have not. We've earned a great reputation with our clients. Check us out on Google and Yelp. So when you need repairs or maintenance on your gas or diesel vehicle, you'll call us. We work by appointment only and sometimes emergency. So our number is 512-255-7627. That number again, 512-255-7627. We look forward to earning your business at Jerry's Garage.
Okay, we're back. David, man, I'm really enjoying this podcast with you tonight. And
Thank you.
So why do you feel so passionate about speaking to and training groups? I get the impression from our talk you really like the training side of the speaking, correct?
Yeah, I really do. I like both, but I think the biggest thing is I think I'm a closet educator. And I really like, I feel like I've got some good messages to send to people, and I really like to see the reaction to people when I've done a presentation, be it an all-day workshop or be it an hour program or whatever it might be, and people will come up to you and say, here's my takeaway. This is what I got. And that's a big high for me, and I tell people that's my sleep at night program when I know that I have sent something out to the universe that they want to appreciate, and two, most of them can figure out how to really apply that in their lives. And that's a real turn on for me. I think that's why, where the passion comes from is because, as cliche as it might sound, it's kind of like you feel like you're having some impact on the world.
And people's lives, you're getting
Exactly.
a chance to give them new information and stuff they can apply to their life, which is always exciting, right? I love to see that when I'm working with clients and a light bulb goes off, right? It gives you a natural high. And you're right, that's a good sleeping pill. Like that. All right, so corporation, association, why would they want to hire you to train their employees and speak at one of their conferences? What do you bring to the table for them?
Well, I think from the corporate point of view, and I'll just take Microsoft as an example because it's probably the largest client that I've worked with, is I did the smart habits for them. I did a creativity program. And so what I discovered from that is they weren't able to get these subjects anywhere else because they were things that I'd built and had worked with. So they did lots of training, and Microsoft was a big trainer, a big believer in training. And so I think the value they saw is I came in with a different program than what they normally would teach. And so not only did their people enjoy it, so it was kind of a bonus for them, but I think they learned skill sets that the internal Microsoft group was not going to be able to offer them.
Awesome.
So I think that's kind of the big piece from the corporate side. And on the association side is what we talked about earlier, particularly, and again, I'll just tout the memory workshop because that tends to be the topic that hits the highlights for associations, is that really gives them a good program. People learn skills that they're not going to learn anywhere else. It's a fun program, so they leave energized and they leave with new skills, and it gives an association an opportunity of providing training and speaking on topics that are not, unique to their particular industry. And the key behind this is people are getting up and practicing. So with the memory workshop, we teach a skill, we talk about it, and then they actually get up and practice it. So it gets back to the, people learn when they do, they don't learn when they listen. So if I just told you how to do it, some of you are going to walk away with some value. But if I get you up and moving around and practicing and doing what you just learned how to do, then you're actually going to learn it. So
that's good. Awesome. So this is not a trick question, but do you consider yourself a motivational speaker?
I don't, and I'll tell you why I don't. I've been to lots of programs in my life, as everybody else has, and I've been to people who are classified as motivational speakers, and they're usually wonderful, and people are on their edge of their seat, and they're absorbing all this wonderful information coming to them, and then by the time they get to their car in their parking lot, it's gone.
Yep.
And what I really consider from a training point of view is I want to be motivational in the sense that people are charged by what we're doing, but I want to give them some true hard content, something that they understand what it is and how it works, and they actually know how to apply it when they leave that workshop. So I think that's kind of the difference between what I would consider a pure motivational speaker and somebody like myself who I hope motivates. That's certainly part of the process, but the biggest piece of it is I want you to leave with 1, 2, 3, 4 skills that you walk out that door and you start immediately using them, and they immediately start paying benefits for you.
The end of our little bit of our podcast here, but David, any as I picture you now with the slingshot, okay, are there
that's a great picture. That really is.
Thank you, man. Are there any last thoughts as we close down the podcast? Anything you want to add in, like where are you looking right now to speak? I know that we're doing a lot of work together getting you back out there on the social side, but what Austin, local, around the state, what are you interested in right now?
Well, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of opportunity here in Austin. There's certainly a lot of opportunity in Texas. This is, as you and I have talked about before, kind of Austin's the association capital of Texas.
Exactly.
But I mean, I have done literally worldwide travel. I will share this with you that through my work with Microsoft and the other groups that I've done with, I've actually spoken to groups in 8 countries, 3 continents, and 2 hemispheres. So the only 2 states I haven't made money in is Wyoming and Hawaii. So that's my bucket list. It's to do a program somewhere in Wyoming and somewhere in Hawaii, because those are my 2 states I haven't yet been to. But
you're listening in for one of those 2 states on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're in Wyoming or Hawaii, here we go. Give me a quick holler. We'll talk. So. But one of the things I really want to kind of close out, at least my piece of this equation, is we've talked about, passion a couple of times during the interview. And this is just something I've learned probably in the last, 10 or 15 years of my life and my business life, is we've all been involved in all kinds of career moves and opportunities. And those of us who are kind of entrepreneurish, we tend to gravitate toward different things as we move through our business career. But one of the things that I've found is I am the most successful when I am passionate about what I'm doing. And I'm really passionate about the speaking. I also have, a business that I do, individual small business consulting. I'm equally passionate about that. So I think kind of the word of the wise and the way to close out this interview is, what I found is that when I'm passionate about something, when I really enjoy something, when I put everything I've got into it, the money always follows, which I find is an interesting concept. So that's not always true when I've done all the business planning, but I haven't been passionate. That always hasn't been my best successes.
I love it. That's great. So, David, thank you. This has been great, guys. You've been listening to the Hurdy Burke Internet Broadcast Network, and we cover local Austin business, and this is a way for me to give back to clients and to businesses a chance to come on, because we're sponsored, and interview some top-notch people and people that are moving and shaking and doing their thing, and just gives everybody hope and some fun that as they're running their business, they can listen to what other people are going through. David, thanks for being on the show.
All right, thanks for the opportunity, Hurdy. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, we'll see you all around the corner next week. This has been the Hurdy Burke Internet Broadcast Network. Good night.